So I just want to quickly thank everyone for kicking off the new year with us. I am Cassie Gibri, Associate Director for the Ciocca Center for Business, Ethics, and Society at Holy Cross, as well as the advisor for the Women in Business Student Organizing Committee. As many of you know, we just celebrated our 15th annual conference this past fall, and we were thrilled with all of the speakers, a few of whom are here today, including Judy Gonsalves, and the geographical reach of the attendees around the world. The Women in Business Network is growing beyond the one-day annual conference, and we are thrilled to see so many of you here. Tonight's event is hosted by the Women in Business Student Club, which has different leadership than the conference committee, namely Bianca Tatum, 21, and Mia Matza, 21, who are hosting our speaker tonight, Yolanda Rabun, 90, someone you may recognize from the leaderboard with twice as many networking points as the rest of us. I think we're all excited to hear from Yolanda, and so with that, I'll just hand it over to Bianca to introduce her.
Hi, everyone. My name is Bianca Tatum, and I am one of the co-chairs of the Women in Business Club at Holy Cross. I am super ecstatic that we are all able to come together today and listen to such a powerful, intelligent woman. Yolanda serves as Senior Counsel and Corporate Executive with IBM Corporation's IBM's research and storage businesses. She has worked with IBM for over 26 years and has subject matter expertise in complex mergers and acquisitions, intellectual property contract transactions, copyright licensing matters, and data privacy and data security issues. She has been awarded the Triangle Business Journal's Top 40 Under 40 Leadership Award, the Durham Chamber of Commerce Connector Award, and the TBJ's Women in Business Award. Yolanda received a BA with honors from the College of the Holy Cross and her JD from Boston College Law School. She is a member of the Minority Corporate Counsel Association and the Corporate Counsel Women of Color and admitted to practice in New York and Georgia. Referred to often as a modern-day Renaissance woman, Yolanda is also chart-topping national jazz recording artist, an award-winning professional equity actor, and was recognized by IBM and President Obama as the recipient of the President's Call to Service Award for having accumulated 4,000 or more than 4,000 lifetime hours in service. Yolanda has been married for 26 years and has 2 sons at the ages of 22 and 20. So once again, I want to thank everyone for joining today, and now I will gladly hand it off to Yolanda.
Thank you, Bianca. It is a pleasure really to be here tonight, having attended the Women in Business event earlier, or I should say the end of last year. And I'm really grateful for the Women in Business team to invite me. But I'm also really grateful that, as crazy as this may sound, we had a pandemic, because but for that pandemic, I'm not sure that we would have been able to at least get me excited about being a part of Women in Business programming, because you were so far away. I am from Raleigh, North Carolina, and I come to you this evening from Raleigh, North Carolina. And again, it was because we were Zooming, because we were in that, platform, that I was able to be a part of the event and meet so many of my past classmates and new people. So I'm grateful for that. And having said that, because what was deep for me in that event was meeting people from different places, I want to ask everyone who has joined the call, if you don't mind, in the chat, identifying what class you are and where you're from. So there's a chat function in this Zoom, just so we can get an idea of who we have. So I see New York City in the house, Massachusetts, Puerto Rico, Boston, Alexandria, New Hampshire, wonderful diversity. Worcester, class of 2009, Pennsylvania, Jersey, Chicago. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Keep it coming. Falls Church, Virginia. So, so many different years I can see. And again, all across the United States. And how exciting is that, right? That this Women in Business event from November could bring together so many different people, again, who might not have come together before. So tonight I am here to talk to you about living at the speed of passion and rising to the value of you. And when someone asks you to rise to the value of you, I think you want to ask yourself, who are you? Quite often people will ask me, who is Yolanda? And I'm going to hopefully answer that question for you a little bit tonight, because that's going to go into the concept of why it is that you need to rise to the value of you. But I also want to ask you, how do you measure your worth? Because I believe that part of understanding who you are goes along with how you value you. How do you value yourself? How do you pay yourself? What are you worth? These are questions that I think we should all be asking ourselves, but I also think I began to ask of myself when I arrived at Holy Cross College. And I'll tell you, the way I do presentations is that I opened up the concept of the chat so you can talk. I actually can see what you're saying. And so if you want to answer questions that I've asked, I invite you to do so, or to speak to me, and I'll try and follow along. So how did I get to Holy Cross? My journey to Holy Cross was pretty interesting. I went to Northside School of the Performing Arts in Atlanta, Georgia, where I was from. And in that school, I was performing all across the United States, and also in the UK and Japan, basically singing and dancing. And I also had the privilege and the honor of singing for the United States president at the time, Ronald Reagan. But in addition to doing the performing arts, I also was co-president of my class. I was a captain of the cheerleading squad, beta club, French club, honor roll. And I took pride, if you will, in all those things that I had accomplished. As far as I was concerned, college was the next thing to do in my life. And it wasn't a question of whether or not I would go to college, because I come from a family who had attended historically Black colleges. And so the option of where I would go was really lined out for me. But I was that child who wanted to do things different. I wanted to be different. I wanted to explore and find out, again, who is Yolanda. So I remember my senior year, they arranged for you to basically go and meet different colleges during class time when they came to our school, as long as you had a pass. So anytime a college would come, I get a pass and I go, right? Because I knew I was going to college. Well, one day I got the pass to get out of class, and I approached this table in our lunchroom where a Black gentleman was sitting. And from afar, I knew that I was going to be interested in this school. And I walked up to him and I asked him, "What school is this?" And he said, "This is Holy Cross." I said, "What is a Holy Cross? It makes no sense to me. Is it, a religious school?" And they said to me, and then I said, "Where are you located?" He said, "Massachusetts." And I thought to myself, I had traveled all over the world at that point in my life. I had never been to Massachusetts. This is going to be interesting. That's check two. I like this school. And then the thing that attracted me the most, the thing that really had already given me my yes before he had answered my questions, was the fact that this school was going to be perfect for Yolanda. Again, daughter of Capitola, a single mother, because the school colors were purple and white. That was it. That's all I needed. From afar, I saw purple and white. And I said that I am going to do well. Doesn't matter. They're my favorite colors. It's what gives me life. It was fun. And I tell that story because I think many times, especially parents nowadays, they lose the concept of what college is supposed to be, right? It is that point where we are developing ourselves, we're learning who we are. And Holy Cross was this liberal arts college that is supposed to allow you to develop intellectually, to find out who and why you're here in this world. It was perfect for me. But when I got to Holy Cross, I came across many, many revelations that I think formed who I am today and why I do certain things the way I do it. And I got to tell you first, my real life revelations. The first thing is that a bubbler was a water fountain. I did not know that before I got to Holy Cross. A limo to the airport is not a limousine that's really long. It's like this 18-passenger van that looks really crummy, but gets you to and fro. I didn't know that. I learned that I cannot stand to be cold. Ooh, I did not know it could be that cold in that region of the world. I just didn't know. And I do remember that I had some dear friends, as a matter of fact, on the first snow, who would streak in the quad. I don't know if they do that. Do they do that anymore? But they would streak in the quad, and I used to think they have lost their everlasting minds to do that. But I did always, in all 4 years at Holy Cross, never attended class on the first day of snow. You see, I was from Atlanta, Georgia, and on the first day of snow, any kind of inches of snow, we shut down. So I kept the tradition of who I was when I came to Holy Cross. But the bigger revelation really is that Holy Cross really had the campus, a diverse group of people. And I say that because coming from the South, I had met, and I should be clear, I went to School of Performing Arts that had a multitude of different kinds of people in the school. So I wasn't, not familiar with multitudes of different kinds of people. I was. That's why I also knew I could survive at a Holy Cross. But when I got to that campus, I remember meeting Black people that just didn't think like me. That was just different. And they wore different clothes and they talked different and they danced different. And that was intriguing. Wow, this is like a whole new world for me. But I also remember white people that I met and other people of color who, again, just brought all their newness to me. That first experience of that diversity of people at Holy Cross gave me hope that this was going to be something different. But I can tell you that that quickly crashed in about a month or so. Because as weird as it sounds, people started turning into each other. They started wearing the same clothes, walking the same path. They just started morphing to the point that the people who I met on my hall in my freshman, that first time when you meet each other, they all started to look alike. They all started to talk alike. It was weird that this death of diversity, this thing that I thought was great, was happening. Now, it didn't happen to everybody, but it became a majority thing. And from that point on, I felt that Holy Cross was being shortchanged, right? Holy Cross brought Yolanda to this campus because she was different. And how in the world was Yolanda going to learn, or anybody was going to learn from Yolanda, if they all just wanted to be like each other? That just didn't make sense to me. It seems to me that the college was losing really, again, its value, that in order for people to rise to the value of who they are, they got to know who they are. And this college was creating this atmosphere where they were all becoming like the same kind of people, and it was okay. So what does Yolanda do about that? Well, I decided that if I was going to be the most that Yolanda could be, Holy Cross said that their values were about bringing all of your gifts to the table. Well, then I was just going to bring all my gifts to the table, and that's what it was. It was a risk. I didn't care. Heck, as long as the school color stayed purple and white, we were good, and the rest would be what it was going to be. I decided that I was going to be Yolanda. So who am I? 30 years later, I am Yolanda Rabun, a daughter, wife, mother, senior counsel, IBM Corporation executive, professional actor, music entrepreneur, youth, community activist, recording artist, motivational speaker, dreamer, and I'm not done. And that's what Holy Cross taught me, that I'm not done, because I was born with a number of gifts and talents, and I had the capacity to learn even more. And that if I was going to live up to the true value of who I am, then I couldn't be limited by anything, any college, any person who would suggest I was anything other than that. Now, you might ask yourself, being in an environment like this, how could Yolanda break that barrier of all these different kinds of people who would suggest that, I needed to look and be like them? Tonight, I'm going to talk to you about rising to the value of you. I've started to share with you my Holy Cross journey. I will take you through one more story, and then I'm going to share with you the bravest thing that you could do, that I did, and the formula that I live by in my life to rise to the value of me at all cost. And in the process of sharing with you tonight, I promise that there are some questions that have been asking me ahead of time from the women of business that I'm going to address, hopefully throughout as I talk. And I invite you, as I said, that you can chat with me because yes, this is a growth mindset that actually is teachable at Holy Cross if you're willing to listen, if you're willing to take it in. And I would be more than happy, again, hopefully to answer any questions that you have at the end. Since somebody mentioned this, I love it. You certainly can tweet me or retweet me. My handle is at Yolanda Rabun, my name. And at the bottom of each of these charts is the spelling of my name in case you're wondering how to spell it. But hopefully the takeaway for you in this is that you and I are not any different from each other. The common experience we share is Holy Cross. And I always say, even to my kids today, that, you can teach everything you want to teach to someone to learn, but unless they're willing to listen to it, unless they're ready to hear it, they're not going to get it. But that's okay, as long as you come back and revisit to find out what you should have learned. What you tell yourself matters. And what I told myself at Holy Cross is that anything, absolutely anything can happen if you let it. You see, when I was at Holy Cross, I ended up being a senior interviewer. I was a head RA. And I, as well as an RA, I was heavily involved in the Black Student Union. I remember being a SPUD volunteer. I was an honors student. I wrote a thesis and involved a number of people in the presentation of that thesis. And I remember, as a matter of fact, when I was doing the thesis, they said to me, when you do it, Yolanda, you have to stand up and talk for about an hour about what you wrote. And I said, that's boring. And they said, well, then what do you propose? And so I wrote a play from the actual presentation. So I wrote the presentation and then the thesis, and then I wrote the play from the thesis. And then I commandeered all my wonderful, loving friends, Black and white, adults, staff, whole 9 yards to help me do it. Because you know why? Anything can happen if you let it. So that sounds really simple. But I'm gonna also tell you something that happened to me that made me also pick up another really tip in my life to help me understand how to get through and deal with being Yolanda. You see, when I started at Holy Cross, I came from, again, this background where I was doing all these crazy things in school, crazy in the sense that, exploring who Yolanda could be. So I already knew I was a cheerleader, and I felt like I was good at this thing. I had the talent, if you will. And I remember I had a dear friend of mine go with me down to the audition, just, to support. And in this audition, I did like several somersaults. It was two of us who were auditioning that night. I did several somersaults, and I cheered, and I did, because you had to learn like 2 cheers. I did a lot of splits. I did a jump split. I did a jump split. It was beautiful. And I knew I made that team. And in that freshman year, a few nights in, and just being at school, I was not picked. And I honestly thought that was impossible, right? And if there's anything that I learned and that I take away to everything I do in business today, it allows me to be who I am. And the bravest thing that you can do is to let go of your ego. You see, my reputation had already said that I was the baddest thing possible for a cheerleading squad. How could you not pick me? How could I be compared with anybody? And I remember growing up, eventually learning that, of course, when you compare yourself to others, you become vain or bitter because there's always someone greater or lesser than you. But that didn't make any doggone sense to me in my freshman year in college, right? Because I was the best. But what I learned most in that night is not just the idea that in order for me to overcome this idea that I was not chosen to be on the squad, it was that in order for me to excel, I had to let go of myself. Now, I should have said, because I didn't, I was on the Holy Cross squad for 4 years, all 4 of my years. And I eventually was the captain of the squad before I graduated and recruited several of my friends, including men, to be on the team because anything can happen if you let it. But the fact of the matter remains that I didn't make it. So I remember at the end of the practice, they told me I could come and practice if I wanted, but I wasn't on the team. And I told my mother that made no sense. I mean, if I wasn't good enough, why wouldn't I be there? And I remember they came to me and they said, the cheerleading coach, she said, I just want you to know that my husband, Tom, suggested that I should give you a chance. He said, make her an alternate. And what was happening? As far as I could tell, Tom was letting go of his ego too. Because part of the concept of ego, as I understand it, is when you basically have this concept of what you're supposed to be based on what society says you should be, right? It's all about everything except what you were designed to be. And I remember I came to Holy Cross, this religious school. I'm United Methodist, but I do think we believe in God. And I do know that God made me uniquely Yolanda. So all I have to do is remember to forget about what people think I can and cannot do. So what you didn't get me on the team, be Yolanda. Go to the rehearsal, go to the practice, learn the cheers. You are as good as, if not equal to anybody out there. Go ahead and do that. And that's what I did. And then Tom said, you should let her be an alternate. And she begrudgingly said, okay, fine. And then she said to me, we're going to let you come out to a game and cheer, but you have to stand over to the side because you're not a part of the team. And so I was standing over to the side, and I remember that day, I went out and I cheered like it was the last day I would cheer. I hit all kinds of flips. I did push-ups. I don't even know what I did, to be honest. But what I learned is the last thing that's probably most important, that the entire crowd of students was cheering Yolanda. And that whatever their concept of what a cheerleader is supposed to look like, it wasn't that she was Black. It wasn't that she was, tall and skinny or whatever else. It was that she inspired, that she gave back. And that if they can suspend their ego about what that's supposed to look like, and a Tom could show up and do the same, and a Yolanda could step back and get out of herself, then anything can happen. So it was all about an attitude check. And this is how I lived through college and how I live today. I have a can-do attitude, I have a no-care attitude, and I have a get-to attitude. What do they mean? So can-do was, I always was thinking from the end, how do I want this to end up? How do I want a particular situation to turn out? All right, if I need to get an A in this class, what does Yolanda have to do? Yolanda has to think from the end. In order to get an A, I need to show up. I have to do X, Y, and Z, because I can do anything I put my mind to. No matter what you tell me I cannot be, no matter what you tell me you won't let me excel in, I always was thinking from the end. And I even do it today when I'm with my clients. It is always, how do you want this to turn out? Because I can get you to the end if I understand where you want to do, because we can do anything. It's not, especially in the law, we have this big thing that we don't go to our clients and say, no, 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 no. We say, what do you want? How can we figure it out so we can do it ethically, so we can do it in a manner that's going to actually work for everybody? And probably one of the most important things there is, I don't wait for things to happen to me. I don't wait for bad things to happen, right? You know, we had several incidents at the school where you know, that created racial strife. I wasn't waiting for you to call me the N-word, right? I'm not going to put myself in a situation where you're going to make me do something I don't want to do. So I was always finding a way to happen on things, to plan ahead, to look and see how this could go. I mean, you know, Cassie and Bianca can tell you at the top of this call, we were here early to see what could go wrong. And sure enough, we were finding little bits of things so that we were happening on this meeting before wrong things happen to us. Because you can do anything you want to do. That's my can-do attitude. And then probably more importantly, you know, if it's possible for you to be the best that you can be, then good is not enough. If better is possible, why would you resolve to just be there? It wasn't enough that Black Yolanda showed up at Holy Cross, loving purple and white, wanting to be a cheerleader. No, no, I needed to figure out, could I be a DJ? Oh, we have a radio station. I'm gonna figure out I can do that. Sure did. Tried that out. It was fun. It was interesting. Can I run track? Oh my goodness, my dear friend Kelly had me running up those steps, and I thought you know, it was okay. I tried it. Can do. But that was the attitude that I had. Um, and it allowed me, again, to find out more about who Yolanda is. My no care attitude was very important as well, because in the end, no care is what actually got me through understanding that ignorance is bliss. All these folks coming to Holy Cross were like me, 16, 17-year-olds who only knew what they were told. There were some people who were coming there to get married, as I remember, people whose, you know, sole purpose was to follow in the footsteps of their parents. And then there were folks like me, just trying to figure out who the heck I was. Who am I? I don't want to be like everybody else. So I was open to everything and attached to nothing. And this is important for friends, right? Because this is where the concept of networking comes. I think we get this idea that when you meet a person, they're your person for life, and you can't share them with anyone else. And I learned fairly quickly in my freshman year, I had beautiful friends. And then in the second year, new people came to the school, and they were all talking to each other. And I was learning from them, and they were learning from me. And the more I felt like we were open to each other, being ourselves, the better we were. That worked for me. And I think it worked for them. Because in the end, we were all inspiring each other by allowing ourselves to be different. Now, I know I said it sounds like I'm talking about everybody. I'm not. There were a number of people of color who I flocked to, and I use that word on purpose because people say birds of a feather flock together. And while that was true, I think all over in the school, to my point of diversity, what I loved about the group of people who I was most around, and it was Black and white, was that we all had these like colorful feathers, if you will, that we weren't afraid to show. We weren't afraid to share. In my classes at Holy Cross, I always tried to bring Yolanda to the table. And Yolanda was Black. So it is Black. So I would raise the question of where are the Black people? Because what's the worst thing you could tell me in history, except that they didn't exist? And we knew that wasn't true. So it opened up conversation. And I felt people were learning from me as much as I was learning from them, which is why we were in Holy Cross. Everybody had an opinion about who you should be, what you were going to be, and I did not care. It was my no care attitude because I still was going to stay who Yolanda is. And it was hard, but I didn't care. And that took me through. And the reason why is because I had that get to attitude. I get to go to college. I get to stay out late and not call my mother and tell her where I am. you know, I get to make decisions, good ones and bad ones, and learn from them. And that was all because I had life. And not everybody has that privilege. And in the process, it was learning to get rid of the distractions. The people who said, you got to be this way, or, I've traveled here and there. I loved that I was around people who were so much richer than I could ever dream of making money. I loved that because I was learning from them. I love that there were people who had circumstances far less than mine because I learned how not to be so haughty-taughty about who I thought I was. I was learning, and that's what Holy Cross did. It gave me that basis of an environment for me to learn. And I made sure, doggone sure, that you weren't labeling me as this. That's why when I gave you a rattling of who I am, I told you I'm not done because there's so much more. I mean, if you ask me who I am today, I'd tell you I'm energy, right? I tell you I'm self-motivated. You give me the chance and I will show out. Because at the end of the day, this is really all about figuring out that all of us have unique fingerprints, all of us, different from each other. And you either have the choice of trying to mesh and be like other people, irrespective of your fingerprint, or allow people to learn from you. I mean, Hurley Cross completely shortchanged if I started to look like all of my friends, if I started dressing and talking like everybody. Boring. That was boring. And I came to Holy Cross because the colors were purple and white, because they were fun. And I wanted to be fun because I think life is supposed to be fun. We weren't born to be unhappy. We are asked to strive to be happy. And in order to do that, you got to do what makes you happy. So here's my attitude check. Leveraging everything of what I was telling myself at Holy Cross. These are the 4 pictures that were on the top of the chart. And when we first started, Cassie actually asked me, were these my alter egos? And my answer to her is no, right? Because I told you earlier, I let go of my ego. These are all of who I am. I am a wife, a mother, a family person. I knew at Holy Cross that I wanted to be married. I met my husband when I was at Holy Cross. And we are still together 26 years later. I knew I wanted to be a lawyer. And I decided that, again, thinking from the end, how is that going to happen? How's that going to work for Yolanda? Because you know what? Someone told me that I would never make it in law school. Again, distractions. So my no care attitude had to kick in. What do you mean I'm not gonna make it in law school? They said, well, you're really involved and you're nice and your grades are pretty good, but you'll never pass that exam, right? You'll never get through that standardized test. And I thought to myself, okay, well, I'm gonna fix that, right? What is my problem? How do I fix my weakness? And so part of Holy Cross's training to me is not all of my strengths are as important as knowing what my weaknesses were. And I had a weakness in taking tests. So I literally went through a process of learning how to take tests after being a grown woman at that, right? To the point that I eventually learned I had to translate the test because it wasn't speaking the language that I knew. And mind you, I think I'm pretty doggone smart. So I was translating how to answer the question. And not only did I pass um, uh, my Georgia bar, which is the first bar that I took in my 3rd year of law school, but I passed the New York bar as well, flying colors. And again, part of that was thinking from the end and realizing that I can do anything I put my mind to. I'm not going to care about all these people who say I cannot do it. I'm going to live my passion, which is to be able to connect to people. Because that's the piece of what happened in the cheerleading, right? I don't know what I did, perhaps just showing up, that made Tom say, give that girl a chance. and to get on that actual field and cheer, to let all those people in the stand say, give that girl a chance. Because after that one day of cheering, I literally made the squad. The lady was like, I don't know what you did out there, but apparently it was great and we have to put you on the squad. Okay, thank you. Worked for me. But I stayed involved in the community, right? With all of my theater, and that's what you see on the bottom left-hand picture, to the point that now I actually am producing work for me. And then my music was something that had come from a school of the performing arts. And I never let that go. I was still singing or doing some form of me at Holy Cross and in my life. People ask me about my career path. How does and this is part of the questions that was asking me earlier, how do you take your career path, or what did you learn at Holy Cross to allow for your career path to take you in all the different things that you do? My career is my life. And I think that people, if you look at it from the perspective of, when you come from Holy Cross, you're not coming to be a businesswoman. You're not leaving Holy Cross to go be, a community activist and serve the world. You're leaving Holy Cross to live. And your path, which is what a career is your ability to put all that you've been given, gifts and all talents that you're going to learn. Because Holy Cross is about continuous learning, and then apply it. And that's it. So I don't compartmentalize my life to the point that, today I'm a lawyer, tomorrow I'm a mother, yesterday I was a wife. No, I'm all those things all the time. And I learned that at Holy Cross. Be myself, be me. There was a question asked of me earlier about how I feel about diversity in the workplace. And if you haven't heard it already from what I've been sharing with you, I believe that if there's anything that Holy Cross taught me, it was how to be dual lingual. What does that mean? That means that I took full advantage of my 4 years at Holy Cross. I studied people. That's what I did. If you ask me what my degree was, I studied all kinds of people from the North, from the South, from the Midwest. I studied skiers. I studied hacky sack people. I studied people from different countries. I studied Black people. I studied white people. I studied people, because it's people who are, I found, connecting me to all these things that Yolanda needs to learn and do to be Yolanda. And if you do nothing else, then why not learn who they are, who they think they are, so that you can see how they can connect you to you. See, in my normal conversations with many people, the first thing I usually open up with is that my job is to connect people to their next. And that if I get blessed in the process, great. But usually it's not for me, it's for someone else. So that even for the people who are on this call tonight, if there's only one of you who understands and hears what I'm saying, then I've done my job. That you might be able to go and touch somebody else and say the same thing to them. But ultimately, my dual lingualism comes from learning how people react and being able to speak that language, speak in a manner that they understand. Even at IBM, my developers who do stuff, researchers, do not wear suits. So Yolanda, the attorney, could not walk up in a meeting with a full suit on, talking about listen to me. I had to understand their life, their language, how they operate, and based on that, then show up and be there. So diversity in the workplace is a part of that concept, that we are all different kinds of people. And in order for us to solve a problem, you got to bring in variances of ideas, perspectives, vantage points. Even when I was in law school, we had somebody who was like a grandmother, like in her 70s, and someone who was a doctor. And I can't tell you what I learned just being in their presence, of how they thought about a particular case. And even from the perspective of being a Black woman, there were cases to me that were clearly based on race. That action happened not because, someone had a proper property line, but because Black people were not allowed in that white neighborhood. IBM has a program called Embrace. The concept is that it is recognizing that people have been identified by their race. I can't tell you that that's right or wrong. I tell you, at Holy Cross, I learned that it is ridiculous. But it was at Holy Cross that I actually learned this whole concept of race being a thing. But I did say that as I go in life, I am going to always, again, show up being Yolanda's authentic self, and encouraging other people to do the same thing. That picture you see on the right is a presentation I did in IBM as soon as the George Floyd stuff happened. I shouldn't have called it stuff. I should say the George Floyd incident happened. I wanted to be very clear that even in IBM, we have problems and that we were not peachy keen. And even in my senior position, I wasn't afraid. Again, because from Holy Cross, I had this, I can do it. I do not care because I get the privilege of speaking my voice and making a difference for someone who probably won't speak as loud as me, but who also feels the way that I feel. And then the bottom piece of it was this idea that, again, I could do anything. So I, this year, started coding. As crazy as that sounds, Yolanda started coding in IBM, the lawyer. Why is she coding? People are saying, what is that one more thing she's doing? Yep. Because I can do anything I put my mind to, right? And I challenge everyone else, again, to do the same. I can go into detail, but I want to kind of get out of here so I can answer questions as well from you. And here's probably my pride and joy, my chart. I call them my people. I came from Holy Cross. I met these people at Holy Cross. People on the left, Jacqueline Abercrombie, Lorraine Lane, Craig Jones, and me, class of 1990. And you see us there again. We had met again about 2 or 3 years ago when the Black Student Union had their 50th reunion. But more importantly, not only did I have these 4 folks and many other class that I talked to then, that I talked to like literally an hour ago. But it was this concept of all of us, the people in that picture in the top right and the top bottom, oh my goodness, we're all so different. And how beautiful that was that we didn't turn into each other. And I bring this chart to you because I can, right? I thought about making it multicultural, but tonight I just didn't feel it. I just wanted to share with you that I have a network of people that I met at Holy Cross who know people, who connect me to people, and that's how networking works. How in the world did Yolanda in I'm watching the chat. That was hilarious. How in the world did Yolanda, in this Women in Business event, actually like become the leader of the board? I'm gonna tell you, I got so excited that Women in Business actually was something that I could relate to because I'm a woman in business, and I could actually have access to it. That I wanted to know everybody. That same spirit I had when I came to Holy Cross, some 30 years ago, I wanted to know other women. I started learning about people who were in theater, in programs I didn't even know was there. I was like, wow, I didn't even know that was there. I started learning of people who were lawyers, who wanted to be lawyers. Again, all things that interest me. And I just kept asking questions. I even created a breakout session for anybody who wanted to join who looked like me, because that was cool, right? For me, that I could be able to, in the position that I am, reach back and help somebody basically find a way. And I can tell you from that event, we actually had that breakout that day. We still meet the ladies just to help encourage these women of how being a Black woman in this business world, things that you should think about, that you can overcome. And that, I think, is how our world works. You see, I am Yolanda Rabun, and I live at the speed of passion because I understand that in order for Yolanda to show up in this world and represent the God who made her, she has to really live up to the value of who she is, all of my talents, all of my learning. And what I tell myself and what you tell yourself matters. Thank you. So I'll open the floor in case you have questions. So while Bianca or Cassie is trying to figure out what's happening, I believe you guys are all able to ask a question. If you, wait a minute, do I have to unmute you?
Hi, Yolanda. I actually had a question.
Great. Hey, Mia.
Thank you so much, first of all, for all of your words. They're so empowering, and I really appreciate you coming today and spending time with us. So the question I had for you was, what do you think was the most valuable skill that you obtained from Holy Cross, and how did you sort of market that to your first job or experience after graduating from Holy Cross?
I think probably the most valuable was listening, right? Because I was a talker. I mean, my nickname was Motor Mouth. And so I could talk a lot and miss really what anybody else was saying. Because, you know, I'm gonna be honest with you. I had an ego. You know, as much as I say let go of it, I still was working on that process. And as I grew older, I really learned how to let go. But listening, and the concept of listening is basically hearing what other people bring to the table. That you're not the only one with the right answers or with the great ideas. That other people actually, if you listen to them, are seeking to help. And I use that skill now in the workplace where, especially for me, I'm the go-getter. I'll get it done. What you say you can't do it, I get it done. And after a while, you can burn out doing that. So listening allows you to hear people who say they can do it too. Okay, you can. Let's do it together. And that worked out very nice.
That's awesome. Thank you.
I have a question as well for Yolanda. You spoke a lot about having a network at Holy Cross based on the friends you made and so forth.
Mhm.
How would you say that network or those friendships you made helped your career or allowed you to be successful in the long run in your life?
Well, I think it's a great question. For me, the friends that you have, and you want to surround yourself with people who don't think like you. I can't say that enough. For me, it is they're the ones who check you in a colloquial way, as I should say it. Meaning, you should know that we didn't come together because of the pandemic. We came together long before the pandemic with March Madness. As a matter of fact, we would basically talk trash about who was going to win. But in the midst of us talking trash, having that fun, we would also ask, how are you doing in life? And how is the job? And so when we were having job interviews, we would, you know, throw back to each other, what do you think about this? Or if we were dealing with a tough situation at work, we would say, you know, this happened to me, please save me from myself. And in the midst of it, we would get advice and counsel. We have one of the persons in our group who is just an amazing educator. He sends us books to read, so that we are enriching each other's lives, in a sense that, again, Holy Cross taught us not about how we could be better than each other, but how that we are the best that we are because we love on each other. We're honest with each other, and we check each other. I don't know if there's a better way to say it. Someone asked a question in the chat about what advice would I give to an alumnae who is without a job right now. And I would say to you that your circumstance, let me be careful about how I say this. Your circumstance is one that sounds like a holding pattern, right? You're not where you want to be. But you know where you want to go, or at least you think you know where you want to go. And there's an assumption I'm making on that, but let's go with it for now. And I would submit that whenever I am in a holding pattern, I ask, what do I need to do to improve Yolanda? What is Yolanda missing? What does Yolanda need? And that doesn't necessarily mean that Yolanda is not enough. It's how can I still sharpen Yolanda's skills so that I am ready when that time comes. When I came out of Holy Cross. I thought I would be employed like that. I did. Now, I knew I was going to law school, but I still thought I went to the College of the Holy Cross. Surely you're going to hire me. And I could not get a job. I remember, and then this was a year before law school. So I took a year off from Holy Cross before I went to law school. And I remember people telling me I was overqualified or I was not qualified enough. And I decided to volunteer my time at a judge's office as a clerk. Why? Because I didn't know what it meant to clerk. And I heard that was something that people in the law do. And I thought that could be interesting. And I was free, you know. I mean, as far as I was concerned, you don't have to pay me because I'm going to learn everything I could possibly learn from you. I'm going to learn people. I'm going to watch everything and figure out how things work. And I went into this office and I worked like hard, because hard work pays off. Because what happened was my reputation, interestingly enough, got around that this girl actually is volunteering her time. Can you believe that? That's a girl who's doing all that. She's volunteering. You're not paying her. I ended up getting 3 jobs out of that one volunteer effort, right? Let go of my ego. I'm a Holy Cross person. You're supposed to hire me. No, I wasn't. Okay, I was without a job. And so I did that. And you know, obviously in these days and time, if you have a family to support and all that, that matters. But also nothing was beneath me. I worked at a Burger and a King, okay? Because Burger King paid. And I just think that that concept of letting go and doing what you need to do to make ends meet will put you in the space you're supposed to be in to be seen. Because ultimately it's about visibility and we're connected to each other to connect to the next. Okay, let's see. More questions. I hope I answered that question okay.
I have a great one here from Lillian Piz.
Okay.
This says, thank you so much for an inspiring presentation. How do you stay motivated and prevent yourself from getting burnt out as you are pursuing all of your passions?
How do I stay motivated? So what I feed myself is important. You know, just like a car, you have to put gas in it in order for it to go. I feed my mind with positive thoughts. I always challenge people to say, are you taking care of your spirituality? It doesn't mean I don't really care if you're agnostic or I don't care what you are, but you have a soul, and you have a great mind, a sponge that takes in information. If you're listening to raggedy daggedy doogity doogity junkety junkety stuff, well, that's what's going to come out of you. So why not go feed yourself with the Bible? Why not feed yourself with positive affirmations? Feed yourself with positive people to be around. So that also means that if you're around negative people, keeping motivated is removing them from your life or you removing yourself from them. I think that's an action that a lot of people don't take, but I am constantly protecting my mindset, if you will, because there's only so much I can take. And I say that in a joking manner. I have people in my family who will call me, and some days my tank is full and I can take anything they say. And other days I cannot. And that's when I know I need to go fill up because, again, this tank, it needs gas.
I have the next question up from the chat that I thought was really interesting. Any advice on how to handle anger in the workplace? For example, supervisors who criticize subordinates.
People, in my study of people, I have come to learn that a lot of times anger is, there's a source of the anger that causes people to act a certain way. I used to, as a matter of fact, negotiate, I have negotiations where people will be hollering, literally hollering on the phone. And I, at the top of the negotiation, I would start the call with, "This is Yolanda. If you're going to holler today, we're going to end this conversation now while I'm smiling. And I can get a colleague to work with you." Now, obviously, you see, I'm purposely talking slow and quiet. And I'm countering, if you will, that energy. Because I said to you earlier, I am energy. So if you come to me with like that, I'm not going to react to that because I just can't operate like that. And, you know, in the workplace, you have resources. You can try and confront it, which sometimes may not be wise. But you also have the ability to reach out to other people who can help you help them address the issues that they have. Because for all intents and purposes, it really isn't acceptable. People have life circumstances that may draw them to be angry. People come to Holy Cross just like that. And again, that was part of my learning, that a professor, as a matter of fact, I should mention her name, Dr. Greta McNeil. She was like a mom, if you will, to me when I was coming through school, a great aunt, but who watched out for me. And she would always say that everything that happens to you, Yolanda, is not because of your skin color or not because of A, B, and C. And so you have to take a step back and think about what is actually happening here. Why is this person, oh, I see a little one. Why is this person acting the way they're acting? And then not necessarily aligning with their vantage point, but understanding it to make sure that it doesn't distract from who you are and what you need to be. Anything else?
Any last questions?
I actually had one last question, Yolanda.
Mhm.
So you were mentioning the importance of sort of realizing that things aren't beneath you and practicing being humble. And so I was wondering maybe if you could speak to when you sort of first realized the concept of importance of humility and ways we could practice that sort of radical humility that you were speaking of earlier.
When the boy I loved didn't love me back.
That's a good
I mean, really, I was cute. You know what? How could he not love me? Um, and I had to check myself because, interestingly, it's so true. I'm sure my Holy Cross friends who are on this call know exactly what I'm talking about. I remember he sat down and he said something to me that you know, he was like, "I like you, but you know, you." I don't even know what he said, but it was like this. But I remember thinking, "Wow, I guess I'm not all that in a bag of chips." Then I said, "Oh yes, I am. He's just not the one." Um, and but I need to be humble. And I'll tell you, that's how I eventually got to my husband, because every experience is worth the experience. You know, people think, oh God, I wish I hadn't gone through that, or I wish Holy Cross hadn't had that rough patch. Oh yes, I received it all. It's 20 hours. Oh, must be near time to go. I received it all and I used it. I used it to learn from it. I used it to build Yolanda. I used it. So and the more and more I used it, the more humble I became, the more humble I was. And when I met my husband, I was in a space ready to meet him because I had learned from the lessons before.
That is beautiful. So it looks like we have a couple of requests for maybe some closing comments on maybe some book and Netflix recommendations that continue this positive vibe.
Ah, I heard God laughing. I think it's the last book. I need to give it because I just looked at it. The last book I read. This is like funny. Like, where's my book? I think it's called I Heard God Laughing. I think that's a good book. And anyone else, yeah, I welcome anyone can give recommendations. For Netflix, what am I watching on Netflix? I'm getting ready to watch The Crown. I can't wait. I've watched the first 3 seasons, I can tell you that. And of course, everyone has watched Bridgerton. Because if you haven't, you should look at it. I thought it was quite well acted, and just a good story. Especially if you think about it, it was a relationship story, and people. It's almost this conversation we're having right now, that society gives you a way you're supposed to be, without the education to know what that is. And you have to figure that out. And you can be angry, as you remember the Duke was, or you can allow love to transform that anger so that you can really be the best of who you were designed to be. He found that in the Duchess, and it was a process, and it was a lot of pain, but they were willing to learn and love with each other. And that's what this whole life is about. That society will tell us how we're supposed to be, will tell us what we cannot be, and we have to look beyond that and be who we were designed to be. No matter what your religion is, there's someone greater than you and I who designed us and expects us to live out that design.
Well, on that note,
Thank you.
yeah, once again, thank you, Yolanda, for taking the time to speak with us today. It was such a
Absolutely.
great opportunity to listen to your insight and your message to current Holy Cross students and alumni. And then I hope everyone has a safe and relaxing rest of their break if they're students, or week for alumni. And I hope to see everyone, or hopefully mostly everyone, back on campus next semester.
Oh, that's right, because you all are not there. That's very right.
Tough times for you kids.
But you can hang in there. You can do it. No care attitude. And get this. You get to be on the Zoom tonight. No, I'm just kidding. You get to, no, you really get to figure out how to do it different. I challenge you all. Make the most of it, and learn as much as you can.
You know, can I just second what Yolanda said early on? Thank the Lord for this pandemic, because if it were not for the pandemic, we would not have had the Women in Business Conference, and we would not have met all these wonderful people. So it's really phenomenal, and I hope this continues. This is how you make lemonade out of lemons.
I agree.
Well
Thank
said.
you all for having me again. Yep. And I
Thank you
put
so much,
my
Yolanda.
my web address in the in the site, in the chat, if you want to keep up with me. But thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, you're terrific.
Thank you. Bye-bye.